Present.
and Mrs. Hightower.
Present.
We are going to start tonight's meeting with a closed session. We still hope to start at 5:30, our regular time. Tammy, I believe you have the motion for closed session.
Yes, I move that we go into closed session to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the city of Greensboro, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the city in negotiations that will benefit the city in the areas of travel, tourism, and jobs.
Second.
So moved by Mrs. Sturm, seconded by Mrs. Boozawader. Mrs. Hoffman? Mr. Holston?
Yes.
Dr. Wells?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Boozawader? Mr. Outling?
Yes.
Mrs. Sturm?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hightower?
Yes.
And that is a yes. That passes 8-0. We will re-adjourn at 5:30. Thank you. It's actually right at 5:30. Good evening. Good evening and welcome back to the June 7th, 2020 meeting of the Greensboro City Council. I need a motion to return into open session.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Ms. Abuzawader. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes. We will begin tonight's meeting with a moment of silence, and we would like people to keep in mind the children and teachers at Robb Elementary School, the people who were killed while shopping at Tops Grocery Store, and all the other lives lost in the recent past. Thank you. Dr. Wells, would you lead us in the pledge?
You know the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Katie Dorset Council Chamber. Residents may sign up to speak by 6 o'clock by using the Q-Monder kiosk just outside the council chamber. Please see the courier for assistance. To comply with requirements by the state in regards to Zoom meetings and to provide an optimum experience for the public, council will verbalize motions and votes will be conducted by roll call vote and electronically. Each member of council must vote unless there is a direct conflict. We do allow and welcome speakers to address council at the public forum meeting. Council respects the right for the public to speak about matters of concern that can be addressed by council. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. Comments that seem to be intended to incite unlawful behavior will be deemed out of order. Zoom participants are requested to mute their microphones until they are called upon to speak. The city of Greensboro is committed to promoting an environment that is free of discrimination, bias, and bullying. Thus, harassment, words, jokes, actions, or comments based on an individual's sex, sexual orientation, race, ethnic background, age, religion, physical condition, or other legally protected characteristic will not be tolerated. If you would like to submit comments for council to consider, you may do so online through the city's website, which is www.greensboro-nc.gov. We do have a consent agenda for items G1 through G11, which are a grouping of agenda items that are voted on with one single vote to expedite what are believed to be routine and non-controversial items. Any council member may withdraw an item from the consent agenda due to a conflict of interest or for the purpose of voting no. Items removed from the consent agenda for discussion will be placed on the June 21st meeting of the Greensboro City Council business agenda. This meeting does include closed captioning. Depending on the length of tonight's meeting, we may take a short recess around 7:30 p.m. I do want to take the prerogative of the chair and just make a quick comment. Yesterday, it was reported pretty far and wide and quickly that we might be considering a mask mandate this evening. And that was not discussed and it is not on the agenda. I was having a conversation with one of the news stations where I noted that I would be getting a booster today, which I did. I got it at the new Drawbridge Medical Center for Cone Health, and it was really easy to sign up. And there was no waiting. And I would encourage people to look at their options. And if they would like to get vaccinated, it is still so easy to do. The positivity rates are rising in Guilford County. But I will say, and speaking with medical professionals, that while it is very contagious, it is much less lethal than the original COVID virus that came out and with Omicron. Currently, I believe there are 5 people in ICU who are there because of COVID. There are other people in the hospital that may have COVID and may present other conditions at the same time. So I would encourage everyone to wear a mask if you feel like you should wear a mask, especially indoors in large groups, and that we should respect people's decisions. You know, as a community, we are going to have to learn how to live with COVID. It appears that it is here and will be here for quite some time. And I would just ask that we give each other some peace and grace as we get through this together. Thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, if I can just say, as one who just had COVID, I'm glad I was vaccinated and boosted, and I've taken the antiviral, but I strongly encourage everybody to wear this mask. It's a little difficult. I'm glad we got the shields put back in between us now. I think that's going to help keep us safe. I really know people don't want to go under a mask mandate, but please, stay safe. And that's my concern. Because I self-quarantined for 10 days. I know it's saying 4 and 5, but I stayed in for 10 just for safety. And I took a home test, so I'm negative. But it is something that really feels a lot different than you would imagine. So I can only imagine if I didn't have my vaccination, what it could have been. So,
well, we're glad that you are healthy and that council members have stayed healthy. And I'm grateful that since this started, that I have not knowingly had COVID anyway. I have felt fine the whole entire time. And I think part of it is that we take our own precautions. So thank you. And I apologize for this detour. Right now, it's the time for our ceremonial or presentation items. Item E1 is a resolution to recognize the 50th anniversary of Title IX on June 23rd, 2020. Mrs. Hoffman?
Thank you very much, Mayor. This is a resolution to recognize Title IX, the 50th anniversary on June 23rd, 2022. Whereas Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 has, in the 50 years since its passage, expanded opportunities for women and girls in sports and in the science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM fields, and improved protections for pregnant and parenting students. Whereas Title IX prohibits sex discrimination in all areas of education, protecting students and staff in any educational institution that receives federal funds. Whereas, according to the American Association of University Women Research, 56% of female students and 40% of male students grades 7 through 12, and 2/3 of college students experience sexual harassment. Whereas girls have 1.2 million fewer chances to play sports in high school than boys, and less than 2/3 of Black and Hispanic girls play sports, while more than 3/4 of white girls do. Whereas only 21% of engineering majors and 19% of computer science majors are women, and the rate of women's enrollment in certain non-traditional careers remains at low levels, with some fields well below 25% in women's representation. Whereas pregnant and parenting students are often steered towards separate, less rigorous schools, whereas local schools, colleges, and universities are committed to gender equity and have dedicated resources to that end. Whereas the Department of Education has worked to systematically dismantle Texas Title IX protections in recent years, rescinding multiple important guidance documents in 2017 and releasing a new rule in 2020 with significant harmful implications for students' civil rights and federal enforcement of Title IX. Whereas proposed changes to current Title IX regulations would not be enforced until 2024, leaving students and survivors of sexual harassment and violence without the resources and the support that they now have. Whereas the United States Department of Education announced in 2021 that it would interpret and enforce Title IX to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation and on gender identity, an important step to ensure protections for LGBTQ+ students. Whereas we must act now to pass the Gender Equity Act and Education Act, which would codify protections designed to help students address sex discrimination in all areas of education and ensure educational institutions have the resources needed to comply with Title IX regulations. Whereas Title IX must be strengthened and vigorously enforced to protect students' civil rights, and now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro, the City Council wishes to recognize the 50th anniversary of Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 on June the 23rd, 2020, adopted the 7th day of June, 2022, sorry.
So that is moved by Mrs. Hoffman.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Thurm. Council, please vote. Mrs. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Holston,
Yes.
Dr. Wells,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Abuzawader,
Yes.
Mr. Outling,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm,
Yes.
and Mrs. Hightower.
Yes.
And we have on Zoom Laura too, who's with the American Association of University Women. So Laura, are you with us?
Yes, I am. And someone may put me on video. I just want to express my gratitude to the council for the recognizing the significance of the 50th anniversary of Title IX of the 1972 Education Amendments. And I would like to say that we celebrate with you the impact that Title IX has provided to the lives of women and girls through educational equity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
One thing, we're talking about the ACC and all the things that we have to offer. One thing that our Greensboro Coliseum has always done is that they have treated men's and women's sports the same. And when you look at our championships, they are just as good as the men's championships. You would not know walking in the door whether or not you are at a women's basketball tournament or a men's basketball tournament until people actually step on the court. So I think that is one thing that is very important to us, that was a commitment that the city of Greensboro made to the people who are coming in to play sports in our community, that everybody would be treated equally. So it's hard to believe that this has been 50 years.
And the importance now too is that this, not just the applicability to sports, but for getting women involved in the STEM areas in terms of education and in their professional work.
Thank you. Item number E2 is a resolution recognizing the 7th anniversary of the Family Justice Center. Ms. Abuzawader?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the Guilford County Family Justice Center, FJC, opened in Greensboro June 15th, 2015, with a mission to empower family violence victims to live free from violence and abuse and to hold offenders accountable by providing easily accessible, coordinated, and comprehensive services in a single location. Whereas FJC is a one-stop shop for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and elder abuse that incorporates more than 100 professionals from 18 different disciplines who work together to provide consolidated and coordinated safety, legal, social, and health services to those in need. Whereas through the Family Justice Center, survivors have access to a wide range of supportive resources such as victim advocacy, filing a restraining order, civil and criminal legal support, law enforcement follow-up, medical care, counseling, and assistance accessing shelter, as well as other community resources. Whereas the success of the Family Justice Center is rooted in partnerships, and through its work and services, there have been significant overall decreases in the number of domestic violence-related homicides since the FJC's inception. Whereas some of the key accomplishments over the past 7 years include, but are not limited to, the following: service to over 55,000 individuals and families, opening a second location in High Point, increased access to emergency legal assistance, availability of electronic filing for restraining orders, establishment of a specialized medical clinic for abused children, nationally recognized programming focused on reducing child trauma and elder abuse, and continued in-person operations throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the city of Greensboro commends the Family Justice Center for their work, and now therefore be it resolved by the city of Greensboro that it hereby recognizes the Guilford County Family Justice Center on its 7th anniversary and extends appreciation for the contributions the Family Justice Center has made to the community over the past 7 years. Adopted this the 7th day of June, 2022. And Madam Mayor, I would like to move this resolution.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Abuzawader, seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Council, please vote.
And I know the director, Katherine Johnson, and several of the FJC partners are here if they would like to come up to the podium and say a few words. And Madam Mayor, while they're coming up, I just wanted to say, I have been on the executive committee of the Family Justice Center since well before it began, along with Commissioner Kay Cash, and we were brought in as elected officials, started, I believe, in 2012 or 2013, and came with the culmination of finally opening on June 15th, 2015. So Catherine, if you'd like to say a few words.
We got to vote first.
Oh, we got to vote first. Wait a minute.
Yes. Council,
I'm too excited.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Holston?
Yes.
Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Absolutely.
I'm a yes. Ms. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mr. Outling?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hightower?
Yes.
And that passes 9-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Vaughn, Councilmember Abuzawader, who has been with us literally from the beginning. I've been saying every year we have an anniversary, 1 year in Family Justice Center, life is like a dog year. So this is actually our 49th anniversary tonight. And all my partners standing behind me can nod their head and say yes, because collaboration is hard work and takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. And it's hard to believe it's been 7 years. We've had lots of big accomplishments, and that number read in the proclamation said 55,000. We're inching towards 60,000 survivors served. Over 250 children have participated in our specialty overnight programs. We're really working towards that mission of easily accessible services for survivors. So when I thought about year 7, every year I have a word, and this year the word is recognize. In the midst of the most challenging times to be a helper, our Family Justice Center is recognized for many things, including high-risk teams in the work of Sonia Desai and Dale Nix, innovative ways that we're partnering with law enforcement and specialty programming around child abuse and elder abuse in our Camp Hope work, which includes Children's Law Center, who've been with us shoulder to shoulder from the beginning. Our expertise right here in Greensboro is sought across the nation. We've had visitors from Georgia and Colorado and California. We are the site for the statewide conference, which we're proud this year in September will be at the Marriott downtown Greensboro. And folks from across our country are coming right here to Greensboro to see how it's done, which makes us really, really proud. Tonight, the folks standing with me are the leaders that work at the Family Justice Center. They supervise teams in law enforcement, advocacy, legal services, Family Justice Center work. And their leadership and dedication is what makes it happen each and every day, because we are an award-winning collaboration. So I'd like to just pause to recognize a recent award won by one of our partners, Attorney Margaret Dudley of Elon Law's Emergency Legal Services Program was recently recognized for her outstanding legal career, which includes developing an innovative, one-of-a-kind legal service program that's offered right here in Greensboro for survivors at the FJC. She has been named a 2022 honoree for the North Carolina Bar Association's Legal Legends of Color. Award-winning. So with that, we appreciate your ongoing support. The city of Greensboro has a significant investment with the Greensboro Police Department, the Family Justice Center, and we're very thankful for that. And we recommit ourselves like we do every year in June to the work that lies ahead that can only be accomplished together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Madam Mayor, can I? So Catherine, can you come back a second?
Yes,
I want to thank you for the services at Family Justice Center. This is a personal experience that a young lady was having, was actually being stalked in the apartment complex she was in, and they weren't helping her at all. They did nothing for her. They basically didn't even believe her. And yet when I spoke with the police officer, he talked with her, he called me back. He said she is being stalked, literally. He was beating on her door, apartment door, day and night. And he took her down to the Family Justice Center. You all did what you needed to do, took her over. She got her 50C. They put him in jail and to get him some mental health treatment because he needed that. But better, greater still, it was so appreciative of her. And the fact is that her mental state was just destroyed. A single mom working at home and feeling like she was barricaded in her apartment, got no help from the apartment complex, even security at all, none. And so you all did a tremendous job. And so I personally want to thank you for helping that young lady and her family. Thank you for all the good work you did.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells.
Of course, we're very proud of the Family Justice Center, but I want to give a special acknowledgement to my friend, Attorney Margaret Dudley. We've been friends for years and years. I'm so proud of you, Margaret. We also members of the same church.
I'll just ditto that, Margaret. Amen.
I'm sorry, I can't hear well enough here since I came home from San Diego. Did you say something, Council, Mayor Pro Tem?
Can you just repeat what you said?
I said I wanted to give special recognition to you because we've been friends for a long time, and I'm proud of you and your accomplishments.
Thank you, Councilman Wells. Ms. Johnson, if I may, is very, very modest in her accomplishments. She's not going to tell you. Our Family Justice Center was recently featured at the National Family Justice Center Conference. Ms. Johnson made the presentation. We were the only Family Justice Center featured. She was on program with Ms. Katrina Cox, who is the Director of Vocal Programs for the Department of Justice, as well as Ms. Laura Coates. I think that's worth the City Council knowing about what a good job she did at the National Family Justice Center Conference week before last in San Diego.
So item number E3 is a recognition of Guilford Metro 911 Award winners. And who is going to start that off? Mr. City Manager? Melanie? Can you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't have a copy of the recognition with me, but I know from heart what they've done. I do want to share, yeah. So the North Carolina chapters of the National Emergency Number Association and the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials held their annual conference for the first time in over 2 years, the week of May the 1st, 2022. 4 Guilford Metro 911 employees were nominated for statewide awards with other 911 personnel from across the state. These 4 employees were selected as the award recipients. Angela Mitchell was the North Carolina NENA Supervisor of the Year. Keith Hayes was the North Carolina APCO Radio Technician of the Year. Jerry Phillips, who could not be here tonight, she won the North Carolina NENA Telecommunicator of the Year. Jerry's husband, Brian, is battling cancer and she could not leave him tonight. So if you'll remember her, please. And I was honored to win the North Carolina APCO Craig Moser Award, which is an award given to any APCO member that has given significant contributions to both the local chapter as well as the 911 industry as a whole. So I think you all know that I can't say enough about the good things that my personnel do day in and day out. Nobody sees them, but everybody hears them. Everyone that calls, the field responders hear them when they're dispatched. And
when you're called, it's not your time yet. I'm sorry, you'll have to sit down. Melanie?
Take him out of here. Get him out of here.
I apologize.
That's okay. So I have said for a long time, I've welcomed the council members into the 911 center to sit in and listen to what it is that our people do and hear it day in and day out. And almost all of you have done that. I'm very appreciative for that because it does give you an idea of what they hear and what they see and hear, listen to every day, the mental trauma. But to be recognized on a statewide level, it says a lot for the center personnel and how they carry themselves. And they're not only recognized here in Greensboro, but across the state. So I want to thank you for doing this for us tonight very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We want to thank you all for your hard work because that is really the beginning of the first responders. You are the first people on the telephone, and we know that when people call 911, that they are always going to reach a competent, caring person. Thank you. Item number E.6 is recognition of the Greensboro Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities Scholarships.
Good afternoon. My name is Paige Sprinkle, and I'm the chairperson of the Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities. And as part of our committee's activities, it is our privilege to award the Stephen L. Kinnear Memorial Scholarship for outstanding students with disabilities. And I'm going to take a few moments to add some cheer and good news to your day by sharing about 3 deserving students and recognizing some of the folks that have supported them on their journey. So this scholarship is designed to help high school seniors who are enrolled in any Guilford County school that are pursuing a post-secondary education or a vocation-oriented education for the upcoming fall. The annual award is created in honor of Stephen L. Kinnear, who is a lifelong community advocate and who is also an active member of the Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities. I would like to recognize that his wife, Melanie Kinnear, is here in the audience today and to express our continued gratitude to your family for your support of this committee. I'd also like to thank the Weaver Foundation. The entirety of the scholarship that we'll be awarding in the next few moments are possible to their financial gift. So Emily McCullum is joining us today on behalf of the Weaver Foundation team. And I'd like to say to them, thank you for your support, not only for our committee, but also in supporting these students in their next steps. Lastly, I'd like to thank our subcommittee members that are standing behind me. They were involved in the effort to promote this student scholarship opportunity. They reviewed the applications and selected our winners. So the folks standing behind me are Dr. Lindsay Herring, Robin McGraw, Jackie Hawkins, and also Tiffany Troxler. So now to focus on the reason that we're here, the students. The first student recipient is Micah Crump, who unfortunately is not able to join us in person this evening, but is someone we are still excited to celebrate nonetheless. Micah is a distinguished Eagle Scout. His Scoutmaster describes him as a determined young man who shows the true spirit of what a Scout should be. One of Micah's teachers described him, quote, as the kind of student we hope and pray we come across, who embodies what we want all students who enter our classroom to be, representing here and the future. Micah plans to continue his education at Hampton University this coming fall. Our second student recipient who's joining us today is Joel Holt. Joel has been an active participant in both his wrestling and football programs at Page High School, the Autism Society, as well as his church. He's balanced participating in all these activities while successfully maintaining a strong academic career. Joel plans to attend GTCC in the fall. He's looking forward to enrolling in their turf management and landscape design program. Our final student recipient, who is also joining us today, is Brianna Roberts. Brianna is a very active member of her community, clocking 180 or more service hours and volunteer hours. She successfully balances her academics, involvement in several different clubs. She volunteers and maintains a part-time job. She's been applauded as someone who exhibits strong leadership skills, a winner's outlook, embraces and adapts to change quickly, a self-starter, and someone who motivates others around her with her outgoing attitude. Brianna is attending UNC Charlotte in the fall, and she's majoring in biology so that she may go on to pursue veterinary science. We're very excited to see what the future holds for all 3 of these young people, and we're immensely proud of what you've accomplished and the promise that you show for the future. And borrowing a quote from Chancellor Gilliam's commencement speech at UNCG, if you can make it through a global pandemic and get your degree, you can do anything and you can overcome everything. But I also want to give credit to the people who made sure that these students didn't have to do everything alone. Behind these students, there are supportive and compassionate parents who have been lifting these young leaders up this entire time. So I'd like to take a moment to recognize you because your love and support will certainly benefit the community. So as you've heard, we have some very well-deserving and well-accomplished student applicants this year. The committee has decided to award each student with $1,000 to aid them in their academic ambitions. Now, at this time, I would like to call Brianna and Joel to be able to receive their scholarship award. And please join me in thanking and congratulating these outstanding students.
I just want to thank our fine staff and volunteers for the great work they do with this committee. It says the mayor's committee, but it truly is city staff's committee. They put an awful lot of time into this, and one of their signature events is the Shoppers Day that will take place in December. And I know that it was put off for 2 years. Ms. Abuzawader, you are a regular at annual Shoppers Day.
Yes, it's a wonderful gathering of, my goodness, so many high school volunteers. I just heard today that if things continue, we will have it in person this year. So it's always held at the Four Seasons Mall, and there's dancing. Every shopper there is given some money to shop for their families, and they all have a volunteer with them to help them. So it's just a very heartwarming event. So I know that I'll be looking forward to it this year, as will everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to our public comment period. We do have a number of people who have signed up to speak, hot off the press.
Madam Mayor, before you get started, I have something I want
I'm
to,
sorry, go ahead.
before you get started, because of the events as of yesterday and the ongoing Lopez case, I've asked to see the body worn camera footage. And I think many want to, but I do, and I want to see it post haste, I believe. Mr. City Attorney wanted to speak to that, as to how that timeline is going to be.
There are several of us who want to see it.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I was aware of that, and my staff has been able to make it available. We will be scheduling the viewing sometime tomorrow, and it will be released to the public thereafter.
And we will be able to discuss what we see.
Once it's
No.
been disclosed to the public.
We're not under any order. Okay.
You can't discuss it. Didn't that what the judge said?
No, once it's been disclosed to the public, it's public information. Anyone can talk about it.
Good.
Good, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one speaker on Zoom, Dr. Angel Ahmad.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Is your camera on?
well, let me try that. Okay,
You got it. Thank you.
okay. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. City council members, congratulations to everyone on their primaries. That's very important. My name is Dr. Angel Ahmad. I'm the interim chair of the Larsina Johnson Riders Advisory Committee for Paratransit. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with paratransit and kind of what happened with one of the initiatives to try to extend the service. We just had an announcement that the initiative to connect riders in the 3/4 mile to the iRide service. There was a plan to make things happen as of August 1st. But then there was an investigation into that service, how that might work. But then it made a lot of riders anxious. Families were concerned about the changes and how it would affect service, their fares, their finances. And as it turns out, that was not a good option. I think that it might have been better if the people concerned would have talked to riders beforehand, before the decision was made to implement the iRide option. The problem with iRide is that those drivers show up when they feel like it. And if you call on a day to get a ride and they don't have enough riders, you can't go. So that, makes a real problem. And there needs to be some sensitivity training for those drivers. Not all of them, but there are certain individuals don't treat the riders with respect. I heard of 2 incidents reported by 2 of these My City drivers. They observed someone who came to pick up a rider who used the disability device and had groceries. The guy drove up and announced he had opened his trunk. He announced that he was not going to take the guy. He slammed his trunk, closed, and took off. The other rider, the driver, showed up in a Jaguar, which I don't understand, to pick up someone, seeing that the person had a visible disability and also used a device. This was someone also out shopping. The person voiced that she was not going to ride them in her car. So that shouldn't be happening at all. We don't have GTA paratransit drivers that show up saying things like that. They have sensitivity training, and those drivers generally treat us as riders with respect.
Thank you.
Time has expired.
So Madam Mayor, as the liaison, Dr. Ahmad, has valid concerns. Initially, we thought using UServe to help those premium riders was a good idea. Keeping the rate at $2 and the city bear the burden of the other costs. However, after they had several public hearing meetings, they heard many concerns, some of which you mentioned tonight. So they have scrapped that program at all to do that. What we will do at the end of their contract is redo their contract and write in certain concerns that have not been addressed. We're not going to use them for the premium service because they have driver shortages. And the problem with their driver shortages,